welcome back to the channel. And guys, today I wanted to revisit presidential candidate Andrew Yang, Taiwanese American who's running on the platform of universal basic income. And we want to target today, we want to look at his plan for paying for universal basic income for all Americans, $1,000 per month to meet their basic needs. So I'm just going to run some of this segment here from WMUR News, Channel 9, that talked to him about this.
Like it's going to be a pretty big outlay in addition to all of the other major programs you're proposing, but how do you end up paying for this forgiveness? So you have to look at it big picture, where all of this money is getting sucked up into the cloud and heading off to the coast. So
hey you all, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're having a great Sunday afternoon. So I just want to revisit an old video from the archives. You can see a much younger Andrew Yang there. This is in the days when the Andrew Yang campaign was, the whole notion of even considering something like this sounded ridiculous. And just kind of taking a stroll down memory lane there, you can see this video I did was published on January the 14th of 2019. Long time before the Joe Rogan podcast. And I thought this was my first Andrew Yang video. But as I listened to this video, in the video, I remember saying that I was revisiting Andrew Yang, which means there's a video I did about Andrew Yang that even predates January the 14th. I only got 169 views on that video. And today I get a little bit more than 169 views, and so do a lot of other people who cover Andrew Yang. But why is this important? Well, what is done, I think, is covering Andrew Yang for this amount of time. I think it's given me some insight about how politics works and how politicians work. And the longer you stay in politics, the more you learn and the more you can predict things. And that's why I think I've been able to predict many of the outcomes of what's happening here. So this was a Andrew Yang of old, and boy, look how far Andrew's come since those early days when everybody thought this was a ridiculous notion. But it would seem the saga continues. Mayor Deblasio is now proposing some type of robot tax, and he's sounding so very familiar in his words, like the original creator of this concept during this election, and that's Andrew Yang. Being original and being first to get there can sometimes grant you wisdom and knowledge that maybe other people haven't seen. Just kind of came along and picked up things. But let's take a look at what Mayor de Blasio is actually talking about. Okay, so in an article here from the New York Post titled "De Blasio Proposes Robot Tax in Bid to Boost Failing 2020 Campaign." And I have to say the title couldn't be more fitting. So Mayor de Blasio is talking about, of course he's latching on to the gravy train, Andrew Yang, trying to save his failing campaign. And I'm not sure why some people even run for president. Somebody like Mayor de Blasio, I can only assume that he's looking at things like, well, we got our shot with the outsider, the Washington outsider, the reality TV star who wasn't like all the other politicians. And we've seen what we've gotten with that. And maybe now you all want to come back to traditional politicians and the traditional political game. But that's not the case, I don't think, for American people. I think we were on the right path, that we didn't want the career politicians, right? We kind of got a hiccup and stumbled upon Trump. But what is clear is that in our Constitution, our forefathers weren't career politicians. They did other things. They had other jobs, right? And what the political system has become today is something totally different from what we practiced back then. And so I think we want that back again, where people aren't career politicians. And no, we don't want more career politicians. Trump's failing doesn't mean we want. Does it just because Trump has failed to many of us doesn't mean that we were on the wrong path. So we need someone now like Andrew Yang, who is an outsider businessman, but not Donald Trump. So Deblasio discusses a robot tax, right? Nothing wrong with a robot tax. Robot tax, I think, would be a great idea. But is something wrong with Mayor Deblasio's version of this robot tax? See, that's the problem sometimes when you try to jump on someone else's campaign, when you try to follow behind people who've went before you. Sometimes you don't have enough understanding and knowledge to yet fully understand the message and what's going on. And de Blasio's in that same boat. In fact, everybody who tries are going to be in that same boat. And I have another prediction to make. Everybody who's behind Andrew Yang in the polls now, in fact, we've seen people who are far ahead of him in the polls have still had to come to his campaign. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, he's, tried to, we can tell he's trying to take on some version of Andrew's campaign. But what's different between Mayor de Blasio and Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden is neither Joe Biden nor Pete Buttigieg had a definitive plan on how to deal with automation. But apparently de Blasio does. And looking at his proposal shows me that he doesn't fully understand what this is all about. So in Mayor de Blasio's plan, he plans to collect this robot tax. But it's what he does with the tax money that's the problem, right? He says he's going to take the money and create more jobs. But the government can't create any jobs, right? This type of rhetoric is to American people and for the American people who don't fully understand how the system works. And they try to use it, these politicians try to use this in a way to keep us behind. So what he's saying is he's going to collect this tax. How is he going to create jobs with the money? What type of jobs? Is he speaking of something more like a federal jobs guarantee? Because that's the only way a government can assure you of a job. They'd have to create the job themselves. Otherwise, these tax cuts go out to certain places and the worker doesn't necessarily still benefit from it, or the American citizen. So that shows a great misunderstanding of, to me, of collecting a robot tax. The next part is the government, the big government, would be spending these tax dollars. And that's a problem because I have a little experience with government spending. I've been contracted with certain businesses and dealt with government agencies that cannot spend money. They would spend ridiculous amounts of money, far beyond what they need to spend. And you know what creates that, right? What creates that is the fact that it's not your money and you don't care. Nobody can spend your money better than you can, right? And this is what de Blasio doesn't get. Unfortunately, this is what a lot of Democrats do not understand and don't get. And this is what allows Andrew Yang to pull independents, Trumpers, conservatives, because all that message resonates with them. People spending the money and not the government. Another thing we got to get out of is free money to the people. This isn't free money to the people that many of you all who are against universal basic income, the freedom dividend, who think you're some type of economist who understands capitalism and money. It's not free money, it's our money. And that's the difference, right? So The only difference is instead of the government spending the money, we believe that people can spend the money better, right? And this is where we're at with Joe Deblasio. And unfortunately, we're going to have more candidates whose campaigns are failing in the dumps that are going to have no choice but to now take on Andrew Yang's policies. Because even if we start off with someone like Joe Biden, how did Joe Biden start his campaign? He started with a big advertisement about how the biggest threat to our country is Donald Trump, which was ridiculous. We know that this country's been in trouble for a while now, and there's a lot of things that need to be done besides beating Donald Trump. So that was a silly commercial advertisement. And again, it was targeted at Americans who don't quite understand what's going on and to try to push us off in directions. And we got to be very careful with that. But the whole thing was defeat Trump. Then people start to ask the question, well, we got more problems than defeating Trump. Even after Trump's gone, there's a lot of things we got to deal with. Then the big flagship proposal became climate change, right? We had candidates who ran on solely on climate change, said it was the biggest issue facing us today. And the leading candidate in that, he had to drop out of the election, Governor Inslee, I believe. So he had to drop out of this. And so now they're looking for something else, and now all of a sudden it's automation. It's Andrew's platform. But what they're going to do to it, they're going to butcher Andrew Yang's. They're going to attempt to butcher Andrew Yang's policies, his campaign. Mayor Blasio has already did it. He's tried to make the case saying, oh, well, he tried to first present it like it was some original idea he just stumbled upon and came out of, which just makes him even more inauthentic and just makes you want to vomit. So he first did that. Then after the CNN anchor, basically busted him out about it, he then said, oh, yeah, well, but Andrew wants to just give away free money to people, and that's not going to create jobs and a variety of things like that. But here's the problem. These robots, this automation, these robots are going to be so intelligent and so smart. They're already getting there. They already have robot software AI programs that can review contracts that lawyers do way better than them. Going to put them out of work there. We're going to have robot psychiatrists, right? We have, I was calling a business the other day, and I was just so blown away by how the automated service was able to not only interpret what I was saying, but to intuitively ask questions back and gather information. This is happening already, people. It is serious. I kid you not. And so with all this going on, the jobs aren't going to come back like that. As we move further into the future, it's not going to be any creating more jobs with money, because the robots are going to replicate themselves. They're going to do the jobs better, and it gets closer to that every day, right? The robots will be able to build themselves. The robots will learn how to think and do better. They're already doing it. And so we're going to have to really rethink work. It's no taking money and tax dollars and creating more work. It's going to have to be a great degree of people getting subsidized, unless we are truly going to all become computer programmers, right? And I know a lot of you at home who can barely work your electronics now don't see yourselves as becoming some brainiac computer programmer, because I can tell you it is not easy. I dabble with it a lot, and it is a mindful. But that is where we're at with this, right? This is what it's come to. And everybody under Andrew Yang now is going to basically try to all of a sudden come out of the blue with, we're worried about automation now, and we're the ones who got the plan to fix this. But here's what the Andrew Yang campaign needs to do. And this is why it's important to have the right campaign team to be able to seize on these opportunities. You have to call everybody out and say, I am so glad that the Democratic candidates here understand just how serious this automation problem is, to the point they have adopted my policies. And it's very important that he says my policies and not the policy or their policies, because what this signifies is that Andrew Yang had the foresight and the knowledge to launch a campaign to address our most serious issue today. And a person who has the foresight and the judgment to do that makes a good president. But the campaign team has to know how to seize that. They can't let it escape, and they can't just be up there competing against other people against their own original policies, even though Andrew Yang is going to deliver it the best, because just like how we start the video, he's the original source, right? That's all I want to say in this video, guys. Real quick, don't forget our project, BitcoinMYK.com, our own universal basic income project, uses cryptocurrencies to deliver to you value, help you to pay emergency bills, help you to put a little bit of food on the table, trying to grow the value of it every day to serve you all. Completely free to join. You don't have to use your real name, real emails. You can all use false names, fake emails. Only thing we're trying to gather is that is a unique people, and that is going to unique people and not going to a same person trying to game us. But go ahead, join today. We'll leave a link in the description. Make sure you do it today. That's all I got to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, take care.